Aaron had explained many strange things to visiting species. Why humans insisted on drinking liquids that burned on the way down. Why they built machines that traveled faster than thought but still couldn't make a quiet dishwasher. But he had never, in his entire diplomatic service career, expected to explain human reproduction to a woman with ears long enough to pick up 2 extra radio stations. Yet here he was, sitting across from Lithera in the observation lounge, while the ship glided past a blue nebula shaped suspiciously like a screaming chicken. Lithera leaned forward, ears angling like they were trying to escape the conversation. "Repeat it," she demanded. Her voice was elegant, melodic, far too dignified for the horror in her eyes. "Slowly, I must confirm I have not mistranslated your physiology." Aaron rubbed the back of his neck. "Okay. Humans can reproduce, fairly often. Not constantly. Not like a malfunctioning replicator spraying infants across the room or something." Her pupils widened. "You can choose when, you do not need a council vote, rituals. Approval from your planet's biome." "No," Aaron offered. "Mostly we just need 2 consenting adults and maybe a quiet room." Lithera blinked rapidly, her ears twitching like stressed metronomes. "A quiet room, that is the requirement." "A room. And privacy. Privacy is important," Aaron added quickly. "Unless you're into actually no, forget I said anything." She stared at him, then at his biological diagram hovering in the air between them. It displayed human anatomy in luminous blue lines, rotating slowly. She pointed a trembling finger at one highlighted section. "This regenerates monthly." "Well, yes." Her hand dropped into her lap, defeated. "Your species is a statistical anomaly, a danger to galactic population stability. If we left you unattended for a decade, you might fill an entire moon." Aaron laughed. "We're not that productive." "I ran the calculations," she said. I fainted. He very nearly choked. Lithera's people, the Elendar, reproduced once every 2 centuries, and only after performing a ritual involving 7 sacred vines, a planetary alignment, a council of elders, and, according to her, a choir that sang harmonics capable of vibrating through bone. Humans, by comparison, seemed feral. Lithera pressed both hands to her long ears as if shielding them from further scandal. "Your species is reckless, chaotic, unsupervised." "Welcome to humanity," Aaron said with a shrug. "We make do." She narrowed her eyes, studying him the way a biologist might study a newly captured space worm. "And you personally, you are capable of this frequent reproductive potential." Aaron coughed so violently he nearly reset his translator implant. I mean, theoretically, look, this isn't a personal demonstration." "I require no demonstration," she cut in sharply, mortified. "I simply find the concept alarming. You look so average, so unthreatening. I assumed your biology was similarly boring." "That's the nicest insult I've ever received." The nebula outside shimmered purple, reflecting in her silver irises. She kept staring at him as though waiting for him to sprout larvae. "How is your species not extinct?" she asked softly. "With such constant biological volatility, how have you survived?" "We're stubborn," he said, "also lucky. And good at running." She considered this. "Oh yes, I have seen your species run, inelegant but effective." "Thanks again, another compliment." Her ears slowly lifted, a sign he was learning meant curiosity. "Tell me more," she said. "Explain the motivation. Why would a species want to reproduce so often?" Aaron shrugged. "Honestly, we don't always do it with the intention of reproducing." Silence. The kind that expanded and expanded until the ship's AI politely dimmed the lights out of respect. Lithera whispered, scandalized, "You engage in the ritual recreationally." He covered his face. "Please stop calling it a ritual." "But your bodies prepare as though for reproduction." "Okay," he said quickly. "So let's steer the conversation away from comparing cycle lengths before I drown myself in the nearest airlock." Lithera folded her hands neatly. "I am attempting to understand. This is my research assignment. I expected to learn about your history, your ecosystems, perhaps your technology. Not that humans casually defy biological norms like bored demigods. Hey, we're not that bad. You regenerate a reproductive lining every month. Okay, that part is a little dramatic. They sat in a long moment of uneasy truce. Then Lithra exhaled, slow and deliberate. If nothing else, she said, I appreciate your honesty. Most species lie about such things. They claim divine origins or heroic ancestors. You sit here drinking synthcaf and admit your reproductive cycle is a chaotic mess. It's our charm. And her ears tilted, almost smiling. Question. Oh, should I be afraid of sharing a ship with a species capable of such unchecked biological enthusiasm? Lithra, he said gently, I promise. Humans are not going to reproduce accidentally in your presence. She considered him, then nodded. Good, because if I witness such an event, I will indeed faint again. Aaron grinned. I'll keep smelling salts on hand. Her ears perked. Excellent, now continue. I must know everything. And I must learn it before my people send a follow-up transmission demanding a full report on this monthly chaos. Aaron's side straightened and brought up the next hologram. All right, he said, but if you faint again, I'm putting that in my report. Lithra lifted her chin with regal offense. I do not faint twice in one cycle. Humans do. She groaned into her hands. The species will be the end of me. Lithra did not walk so much as glide, her long ears trailing behind her like elegant banners as she led Aaron through the ship's hydroponic forest. Bioluminescent leaves pulsed with quiet emerald light, reflecting softly on her silver eyes. She claimed the walk would settle her mind after the shock of learning about humanity's biological chaos. Aaron suspected she simply wanted witnesses, preferably plants, should he reveal any new horrifying facts. Explain this again, she said, brushing her fingers over a glowing vine. Your people engage in bonding rituals with no choreography, no cosmic timing, and absolutely no supervision. Aaron kicked at a root that wasn't actually a root but a curious tendril testing his boot. I feel judged. I am not judging. Her ears tilted in the exact angle that meant she was absolutely judging. I am merely observing that your species makes decisions the way plasma storms form. Suddenly, and with no regard for structural integrity. That's impressive analysis for someone who once ate a glowing berry because it looked friendly. That berry communicated an invitation, she protested. It buzzed. Exactly. They emerged into a clearing where the hydroponics dome rose above them like a glass cathedral. Purple stars streaked across space beyond the transparent ceiling, the ship slipping through a nebula that painted everything in shifting color. Lithra lifted her head to admire it, ears flaring in subtle wonder. Whenever she did that, Aaron forgot she was from a species that required 7 committees to approve a first kiss. I have considered your earlier statements, she said, about humans reproducing without intention. I have reached a conclusion. Oh, this should be good. You are not a species. You are a probability error. Aaron barked a laugh. We do our best. No, truly. You exist in defiance of standard evolutionary logic. You are fragile, often reckless, prone to emotional miscalculations, and yet you thrive everywhere, even on planets where the air tries to dissolve you. We call those vacation spots, actually. I am aware that is another red flag. A pair of floating pollination drones hummed overhead, releasing sparkles of nutrient mist. Lithra paused beneath them, letting the droplets shimmer over her skin. They formed tiny flecks of silver on her long ears, making her look like she'd been dusted in starlight. Aaron tried not to stare. He failed. So, he said quickly, tell me about your species' reproductive rituals. I think it's only fair I get traumatized too. Her ears folded with pride. Our process is deeply meaningful. When 2 Elendar choose to unite, they must undergo the trial of resonance. It measures the compatibility of our bioenergetic fields. If the resonance is sufficient, The council permits the ritual of vines. And that takes how long? She shrugged, only a few months. Months, that's actually not bad. Followed by 90 years of preparatory bonding. Aaron stopped walking. 90. Yes, for preparation. Correct. He blinked. For what? Building anticipation, until one of you dies of old age. That has happened, she admitted with a sigh, twice. Aaron threw his hands up, and were the chaotic ones. You absolutely are. They reached a platform overlooking the nutrient pools. Lithra sat with practiced elegance, her long ears draping gracefully down her back. Aaron sat next to her with far less grace, nearly slipping into the water and earning a disapproving ear flick. She turned to him after a moment of quiet. Your species' way of forming bonds, does it not frighten you? The spontaneity, the risk, the lack of guarantees. It's not about guarantees, he said. It's about connection. We figure things out as we go, we mess up, we try again. Sometimes it works, sometimes it doesn't, that's life. That sounds exhausting. It is, he admitted, but also kind of amazing. Lithra studied him, her expression softening in a way he'd never seen. You speak of it like it is freedom. It is, he said, a messy, unpredictable, occasionally stupid kind of freedom. She looked down at her hands. I wonder what that is like. Aaron nudged her shoulder gently. You're on a human ship now. Stick around long enough and you'll experience all kinds of accidental chaos. Accidental chaos, her ears twitched. Is that different from normal human chaos? Oh yeah, one is loud, the other is louder. She almost smiled, almost, her ears lifted in a hesitant curve. Perhaps, she paused, searching for words. Perhaps your species is not as terrifying as I believed. He grinned, we grow on you. That is precisely what worries me. A soft alarm chimed in the distance. The ship's AI announced a brief gravitational fluctuation, nothing dangerous, but enough to make the nutrient pools ripple. Lithra steadied herself with one delicate hand on Aaron's arm. Her touch was light, cautious, almost instinctive. Aaron felt his heart trip over itself. She withdrew quickly, ears flushing with pale luminescence. Apologies. I did not mean. It's fine, he said, trying not to sound too hopeful. Really. Lithra looked away, ears angled in quiet turmoil. Your species forms bonds so easily, she said. I fear I am beginning to understand why. Aaron managed a soft laugh. See, humanity isn't contagious. No, she murmured, eyes drifting back to him. But it is dangerously compelling. The message came just after breakfast, delivered by a trembling service drone that very clearly wanted no part in emotional conflicts between long-eared aliens and excitable humans. Lithra accepted the glowing datasphere, tapped it once, and the council's seal spiraled into the air above her. Aaron watched her expression tighten, not with fear, but with the weight of tradition pressing down like extra gravity. The council requests my presence, she said quietly. They have scheduled my compatibility assessment. Aaron's spoon froze halfway to his mouth. That's the 90-year pre-ritual thing. 93, depending on planetary tide cycles. He lowered the spoon. Right, of course, obviously. Lithra stared at the message, her long ears slowly folding in a way he'd learned meant deep conflict. I knew this transmission would arrive eventually. I simply did not expect disappointment. Disappointment in what? He asked. In myself, she admitted. That I hesitate, that I have grown fond of unpredictability, and of, her voice softened. Certain humans who explain unsettling biological facts with terrible metaphors. Aaron swallowed hard, suddenly wishing human biology required less explaining. The ship's artificial morning washed the mess hall in amber light as silence stretched between them. Somewhere across the room a crew member dropped a plate. It clattered. No one moved. Lithra finally sighed. Come, walk with me. I think better when I move. They made their way through the ship's central core, past rooms humming with star drive energy, until they reached a maintenance corridor that overlooked the warp coils. Blue-white vortices pulsed beneath the transparent flooring, swirling like captured storms. Lithra paused there, her reflection flickering in the glass. My people believe connection is something built slowly, she said. Measured, examined, approved. Nothing is left to chance. Humans, Aaron said, leave absolutely everything to chance. Yes, she murmured, this is the problem. Or the charm. She threw him a look. It is not charming, it is reckless. He grinned. Reckless can be charming. Her ears twitched, annoyed, flustered, something between the two. Your species uses courage and foolishness interchangeably, and yours uses caution and paralysis interchangeably. Her eyes widened. Then, to his surprise, she laughed quietly but real. Perhaps. Before she could say more, the corridor lights flickered red. The ship jolted violently. Alarms blared. Aaron's communicator buzzed against his hip. Gravitational stabilizer malfunction, the AI announced. Decks 3 through 7 experiencing irregular compression. Lithra grabbed the railing as the floor tilted. That is not ideal. No kidding. Aaron shouted, already pulling up emergency schematics. Stabilizer S overloaded by nebula interference. We need to manually reset the field regulators. She straightened instantly, Elendar calm settling over her features. Then we must reach the engineering core. The journey involved sprinting down shifting hallways, dodging disobedient hovercarts rolling like drunken beetles, and once, briefly, arguing with a door that refused to acknowledge Aaron's existence. Lithra solved that by glaring at it until it opened. They reached the core, a cavernous chamber lit by spiraling rings of energy. The stabilizer's main conduit sparked violently at its center. Aaron cursed. We need to vent the buildup manually. Explain how, Lithra said, rolling up her sleeves with ritualistic seriousness, and I will do it. That's the thing, he said. It's supposed to be done by two people. Then explain my part. And there's a small chance, tiny chance, that the vent sequence could misfire. Lithra stepped closer. Aaron, your people risk biological collapse every month. I think I can handle this. Even in crisis, she found a way to make him laugh. Working together, they stabilized the field, Lithra with her meticulous precision, Aaron with his improvisational chaos. When the final surge pulsed through the chamber, she caught his hand without thinking, steadying both of them as the stabilizer roared back to life. Silence fell, alarms faded, the ship leveled. Their hands did not part immediately. Lithra looked at their joined fingers, then at him. Her ears softened into a slow, uncertain curve. You make fear feel less heavy. Aaron felt something warm and terrifying unravel in his chest. You make chaos feel less stupid. She smiled, small, shy, luminous. Later, when they returned to the observation deck, the council's message still waited in her palm. But Lithra no longer looked crushed beneath it. She looked resolute. I will respond, she said, but not with acceptance. Aaron blinked. You're turning down 93 years of ritual paperwork. Yes, she said, because I have discovered something. Her long ears lifted with quiet confidence. Connection is not forged by time alone. It is forged by choice. And your choice is to stay. She met his eyes steady and certain. Not forever. Not foolishly. But long enough to understand this freedom your species carries like a second heartbeat. He exhaled shakily. Lithra, you don't have to. I know, she said. That is why it matters. She reached out and gently tapped his chest with two fingers, Elendar style, a sign of trust, of personal acknowledgement. It was the closest thing her species had to a spontaneous gesture. Aaron's pulse stumbled. Outside the window, the nebula shifted into a brilliant sweep of gold, lighting her long ears like twin crescents of starlight. Lithra breathed slowly, peacefully. Perhaps, she said, your chaos and my caution will not destroy the galaxy. No, Aaron said, stepping beside her, but we might confuse it a little. Acceptable, she whispered. And for the first time since